Hey guys, this is Melissa. For my project, I decided to use a PowerPoint to show both my ideas and my thought process behind my science experiment. To start off, my question for this science experiment had two parts. The first I looked into was whether or not an egg would dissolve in vinegar. I was wondering why, on top of it, would the egg dissolve in vinegar? My hypothesis was that the egg would dissolve in vinegar due to the acidity of the egg. On the pH scale, it's a 2.4, which is very low and can be very damaging to bases. When I tested the experiment, I found that only the shell dissolved and not the complete egg, that we can see this in my pictures. On the left is the egg right after the start, which had a brown shell. When I put it in the vinegar on the right, we see that the shell deteriorated and completely came off, leaving just the white part of the egg. When I looked it up, I found there were two reasons behind the shell dissolving. An egg typically has a pH between the upper 6s and the low 7s on the pH scale, causing it to be rather neutral. The acidity of the vinegar, being a 2.4, breaks down the shell. Below is the chemical reaction that shows what occurs between the egg and the vinegar when they're mixed together. We see that the egg shell, having calcium carbonate, mixes with the vinegar, which is known as acetic acid. When they're combined, we get what's known as calcium ethanoate and water and carbon dioxide. When this all occurs, the carbon dioxide being released creates bubbles, and they raise to the top. The bubbles are representing a chemical reaction so that we know it had occurred. From the first part of the experiment in the first question, overall we figure out that because the acidity of the vinegar is a 2.4, it reacts with the egg shell, calcium carbonate, and creates carbon dioxide, which comes off from it, dissolving the shell. Now here comes the second part to my project. Because the shell was dissolved, I decided to look into whether or not water or corn syrup would cause the eggs to go through osmosis. To start off, we need to know that osmosis is defined as the process by which a solvent, which in this case is water or corn syrup, passes through a semi-permeable membrane. In this case, we have a semi-permeable membrane because we dissolved the hard shell on the eggs previously. My hypothesis is that the water would be the one to start the process of osmosis due to the fact that it's thinner and the corn syrup is thicker consistency. I feel like the corn syrup would get stuck and not be able to penetrate the egg membrane. For the experiment, I put each egg in a separate cup for 24 hours. The egg on the left was put in a cup with water, and the egg on the right was put in a cup with corn syrup. The results showed that the egg in water went through osmosis because it grew in size, taking in the water, and the egg on the right in corn syrup shrunk and shriveled down due to reverse osmosis. In conclusion, for the two experiments, we found out a lot. The acid found in the vinegar was enough to dissolve the egg shell from the egg, and we saw that through the chemical reaction with the calcium carbonate and acetic acid. Then, when we put the eggs in water and corn syrup, we found that the water enacted the process of osmosis, and the corn syrup reversed this process due to the semi-permeable shell.